Yep. Good morning, everyone. So, yesterday we learned about how do we use Angular services, how do we communicate with APIs, and how to create our own services. Now, another important we need to know about Angular forms. How to design and interact with forms. Already we know we learned about working with form in data binding, but you need to know some more details here. Actually, Angular forms are classified into two types. Two types of forms are there. We have template driven forms and we have model driven forms. Model driven forms are reactive forms. Reactive forms. What is difference is actually template driven form is nothing but template driven forms means the concept of template driven form is nothing but form and elements all are configured at UI level. Form elements all are configured at UI level. UI level means in interface. Interface is HTML, in HTML page. Already we saw that MVVM architecture. I told you MVC and MVVM. MVVM means everything is configured inside the UI level. What is good and bad also we learned actually. What is good about this? So good is nothing but it reduces the number of requests because everything is present in one file. But what is bad? Bad is it is heavy on UI. Because if everything is present in UI, logic, design, it is heavy on UI. They are tightly coupled. Tightly coupled means not easy to extend. Not easy to extend. But they are good if you want a stable functionality. That means if you are not looking for regular extensions. If you are not looking for regular extensions, so then better to use template driven forms. Better to use template driven forms. Template driven forms. Better to use the template driven forms. So template driven forms, everything is designed in UI level. Two things are there. Another point is you can configure form by using ng form, and you can configure elements. You can configure elements in form by using ng model. These two are required. Form is configured by using ng form and elements in the form are configured by using ng model. Already we discussed this point. So that means when you design a form, the form is having a reference FRM register and it is configured as ng form. This is how you design a form. How to design elements inside the form. That means now this becomes dynamic form. So whatever happens in the form you can access with the reference of this FRM register. Form related all information you can access by using FRM register. Another, inside the form, how you can manage inside the form. Inside the form, you have control, input type is text or drop down or anything. You know that it should have a name. So it should have an ng model. It should have a hash name is ng model. We know already. This is actually template driven forms. So what you have learned in MVVM is template driven form. So we already learned about these kind of forms, but we need to know some more details here. What are those details? You need to know that in this ng form provides following attributes. Following attributes. What are the attributes? It will provide an attribute called value. It will provide an attribute like valid. We have invalid. We have pristine. We have dirty. So we have submitted. These are all the properties of form. What is value? Value is nothing but it is an object that can access all form elements. It can access all form elements and their values. In order to access all form elements and their values, we have to use this value. It is a member of which one? ng form. Valid means it is nothing but it returns true. It returns true if a form contains all valid fields. If form contains all valid fields, then it will return valid. If any one field is mistake, having a problem, then it will return invalid. So it returns true if any one form field is invalid. If any one form field is invalid, it returns true. Pristine means it returns true. What is meant by pristine? General English it is. It is general English word. Pristine means you don't know English, huh? It is general English term. Pristine. You never heard? Suppose we generally say that one sentence I will tell you. Suppose we have Goa beaches. We generally say that some beaches are pristine in Goa. Pristine means they are never touched. Nobody went there and nobody allowed there. That means pristine. Pristine means these areas are pristine. They are not for general public. Nobody can go there. So it is untouched. They are untouched. So they never went there. Right? Those are pristine. So pristine means you opened the form, but you never done anything inside it. You never touched anything. You just opened the form. You haven't touched any field. You haven't done anything inside the form. Why this is required, we will see. Pristine returns true if a form is untouched. If form is untouched. If any field is touched, it returns true. Dirty. Dirty means it returns true if any field in form is touched. If any field in form is touched, then it will return true. Submitted means it returns true. It returns true if form submitted. Submitted means using submit button. Why we need all these properties? These properties are very important. Why we need all these properties? Because these properties will enable interface in such a way that according to situation, the form will change its behavior. For example, you have seen so many times Suppose in Google or some other website, you open your profile details. In the profile details, you can see that you can edit your profile details. Editing profile details means you can change name or some date of birth or something. There will be a save button inside that. But you will see that save button is not highlighted. Save button will be highlighted only when you do some modifications. If you are not doing modifications, why to save? That means now the same save button should automatically enable if any change happen. If there are no changes, then it should not work. That means how you know that there are no changes? That you can do by using this pristine and dirty. If form is returning pristine, means it is not touched. If it is returning dirty, that means it is touched. Based on that, we can manage. I will show you that how it works. So first thing, how we have to design a form, how to collect the data from the form and use the data. Actually, one more important is form data is submitted by using ng submit event, ng submit or submit event. You have two events here, both are same. One is Angular, another one is HTML. By using ng submit event, you can submit, or by using ordinary HTML submit event, you can submit. Form data is submitted. That means you write like this. Form, it will have some FRM register. It is ng form. And here we will put an option submit. On submit, what functionality should happen? Or what you can do instead of submit, you can also use here ng submit. You can use ng submit. We can use Angular submit or we can use HTML submit. These are options here. Now let's see how to design a form, means how we can handle these options. Let's see. We will create a new component here. I will add a new component, ng generate component, template form, skip test. Okay. We have a template driven approach, this one, template form. Okay. Now here we will create one form. Let's keep in the startup. So in the startup, I am defining template form. Template form is in the startup. Okay. In index, let's say template form. Okay. So template form. Run this localhost. It is working fine. Let's design the form. As we discussed, everything is designed in HTML level in the UI. So here we will create a container. And here we will just put a form. And in that form, we are defining some header, some register, user. And here we are creating data list, data term, some user name. Okay, data definition, input type is equal to text. Okay, next. So we have some age. So data definition input type is equal to text. Okay. So we have some another data term, some mobile. And here we have data definition input type is text. These are the options initially I given. I will keep a button here. Button is submit. Now how to make this form dynamic? To make this form dynamic, what you have to do is, first for the form, you have to configure a ID hash FRM register, that is the form ID, and is equal to ng form. Now this is recognized as a form object. Now inside that form, we need all these elements. Every element requires a name. This is user name. Every element requires an ng model. Every element requires an ID. ID is username. It will be used by ng model. This is already we done. Same I will give here. Name is age, ng model, hash age is equal to ng model. Okay, and here same name. This is mobile, and ng model, hash mobile is equal to ng model. Okay. Now first thing, I will show you all those properties. What are all the properties available? I will show you that. See, what we will do here is, we will try to understand these properties that we discussed. Value, valid, invalid, all these things. For your understanding sake, I am creating a simple status. I will put a status in data list. So data term. Here I am writing first form data. So data definition. Okay. After that, we have like pristine. Okay. Data definition. Another is dirty. Okay. Data definition. We have another invalid. Data definition. Another one is valid. So this is data definition. Another one is submitted. Submitted and data definition. Now important is, generally we are working with the forms. You need to know about the concept called validation, because these all are related to validation. Validation and other details. First, I will show you value. Okay. So here, let's see. This is the form and this is the status. To make it more simple in display, I will put a div. So class as row. In this, we have class as call 4 and div class as call 8. The form I will keep inside the 4 column. Okay. And inside the 8 column I will keep the status, so that you can see side by side. Okay. Now in this design, you can see this is the design we have. Now, currently, we want the details of that form to be collected and shown here, what they enter. Then generally, you can simply access the details like this. How to access the form data? We will put a binding expression, form name. Form name is FRM register, FRM register.value. This is an object actually. It is an object. That means you can see it returns as an object. What this object contains? This object contains key and value. Key is nothing but element name. Value is what value you entered in the element. So I will do one thing here. I will apply a pipe called JSON. On that object, I am applying the pipe JSON. Then it will get those details. What JSON pipe can do is, it can display what is there in an object. It converts that into JSON. Actually, in order to read what is in an object, we have to write some iterations and all. But here simply we can use JSON pipe, which will show what is there in that object. And as I told you, value is an object which contains field names and their values. The field names we have 3. Username is one field, age is another field, mobile. What you entered in username, that will come here. What you enter in age, that will come there. What you enter in mobile, that will come here. So this is the name, the age and the mobile. This is all the form data. So anywhere, if you want to collect all the data from the form and send to some API, simple, only one word, form.value. Whatever form reference ID is there, dot value. It will send complete form details. All elements in the form you can send in one attempt with one object. That is what actually the value object is. This is the value. So form value, that means here I will give here accessing. You can access the form value, which is an object that comprises of field name as key and its value as property value. That is what it will have. That means it's an object. That object contains the field name and it will contain whatever the value is inside the field. How to access that? We have to access FRM register dot what value. Usually this is an object. This object contains the name and whatever name, the age and whatever the age. Like that, whatever form fields and values are there, you can collect by using this. This is okay. This is good. That means with one option, you can collect all the form data. Another important is we have form in Angular provides validation services. It provides validation services. That means form validation services. Actually, in order to handle validations in JavaScript, you have to write a lot of logic. In JavaScript, how to verify whether in a text box a value entered or not. So if you are trying that through JavaScript, how to know the value length is minimum 4 characters or not? How to know whether the value entered is a capital letter or not? For that, lot of logic we have to write in general JavaScript and jQuery. What is advantage in Angular? Angular provides ready-made validation services. What is specialty is Angular can use all HTML validation attributes. Angular can use all HTML validation attributes. Can you tell me what HTML validation attributes you learned in HTML? In HTML, what are the validation attributes you learned for HTML elements? So you learned input type text now? Input type text and all these things. Can you tell what are the validations for that? What validation attributes you learned for this? You know that input type text have a lot of attributes. So in HTML there are so many attributes for this input element. Out of that I am asking what are validation attributes. Text box have a lot of attributes. Generally, what attributes are there for text box? So the attributes for text box generally in HTML. In HTML, We have ID, we have name, we have class. So we have size, we have min length, we have max length. Min length, we have max length, we have required, we have disabled, we have read only. So we have pattern, we have list. So these are all the attributes of text box. We have so many. We have autofocus, we have placeholder. All these are the attributes of text. Input. So input have lot of attributes. These are all attributes of input. In that, the question is, in that, what are validation attributes? In that, what are the validation attributes? So many attributes are there for text box. We have list, we have pattern, we have read only, all this. In that, what are the validation attributes? Actually, validation attributes, we have required. We have min length. We have max length. We have the validation pattern. We have min, we have max. These are the validation attributes used for input number and range. We have email, we have URL. So we have email and URL are predefined validations. They will validate email and URL. So validation attributes, these are the major validation attributes. What Angular can do is, it can use these attributes directly. Generally, HTML have these attributes. Angular can use those attributes. JavaScript cannot. JavaScript you have to manually write. JavaScript cannot use these attributes. You have to manually write. To verify emails, to verify patterns, you have to write logic, lengthy. But speciality about Angular is it can use these attributes. That means what Angular can do is, Angular provides validation services, which can verify the HTML validations, and report the issues. So this is very easy and good and very simple to handle the validations. For example, see now. First, we are learning at form level. What are the validation services? Angular validation services. Angular form validation services. Form validation services already are given. What are those? Pristine, dirty, valid, invalid. We have that said. Submitted. Submitted is whether to verify whether it is submitted or not. So we have pristine, dirty, valid, invalid, and submitted. These are validations. Okay. Now see here. Let's go. And I will just give you information first about what they are. So first, pristine. How to access that pristine? FRM register.pristine. How to access dirty? FRM register.dirty. And how to access invalid and valid? FRM register.invalid. We have FRM register.valid. Submitted. You can get it from FRM register.submitted. You can see all these are Boolean type. You can see all true, false. Now it is showing pristine true. Pristine true, why? Because there is no modification happened. Form not touched yet. We haven't done any modification in the form. So pristine true. Dirty, false, because dirty will be true when any modification happened. Invalid is false because we are not using any validations. All are valid only. Submitted false because we haven't submitted. Okay, let's put some modification here. In the pristine, what I am, see, in the username, I am entering some name. then automatically pristine will be false and dirty is true. Pristine false because you have done some modification. If any modification is done, dirty is true. Submitted is currently false because we haven't submitted. Click the submit button, then it will be true. That means we can verify whether he submitted or not. If not submitted, do one thing. If submitted, do another thing. We can handle that logic also. Another important, why they are required also I will show you an example. So valid, invalid, not working because currently there are no validations at all. Let's put some validation. Validation means your HTML only. You write your HTML. Suppose username is mandatory, then we will put required. Required. Age also mandatory, then I will keep required. And mobile also mandatory, then I will keep required. Your wish. How you want, you can add. Only one is required, others not required, your wish. As of now, all are required. Okay. Another important is for here this name I will give min length. Min length must be 4. Min length must be 4. Minimum 4 characters must be there. Otherwise it is not valid. Okay. For age, let it leave it like this. And here for mobile, I will use a pattern. I hope you learned patterns how to write in HTML and JavaScript. How to validate mobile. Mobile should start with +91 and it should contain 10-digit number. In JavaScript, how to write /+91/D and 10-digit number. This is regular expression. In JavaScript and HTML, we write regular expressions like this. This is HTML only. In HTML, we are writing a validation. This indicates that mobile must start with +91 and it should contain exactly 10 digits number. That is the validation. These you will learn in HTML and JavaScript. In HTML only you will learn these patterns. Okay, now the point is we are writing HTML validations. Angular have the ability to understand them. That is very good. If Angular have the ability to understand them, you can see it is showing clearly. Pristine is true. That means we haven't done any modification. That is false. Invalid is true now. Why invalid is true? Because all fields are required now. All fields are required means all fields must have some value. All fields must have some value. So mobile, I will put some value. Okay. And pristine is false, dirty is true, but invalid is still true. Valid is still false. Why invalid is still true? Because age also required. I will select age. Okay. Still it is true. Because name also required. I am entering name. So I am entering name. But still invalid true. Why invalid true? So name minimum 4 characters are required. And 4 characters. Now you are typing here Sam, something like this. Now you are typing here some value. That means it is saying still invalid is true. Anything else? So you see it is starting with +91 and how many digits number it should have. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. How many digits number it should have? 10-digit number it should have. Then 10-digit number entered. Now invalid is false, valid is true. That means it is verifying the pattern also correctly. Right? You are not starting with +91, right? You are not starting with +91. Then invalid is true again. Because as per the pattern it should start with +91 and it is working fine now. Now the question here is, okay, you are verifying and you are just watching those details. The question is how you can implement this in a correct point. That means suppose I don't want submit button to work until or unless everything is valid. Am I right? That is the correct scenario. That means user cannot submit until or unless all fields are valid. Why you are unnecessarily allowing to submit if he is entering wrong details? Don't allow. That means allowing him to submit, verifying the details he submitted are wrong, again sending message that you entered wrong. Don't allow to submit at all. Until or unless he enters all fields correctly, don't allow to submit. That will be very good. That means now how we can do that? What we can do is we can create here, we can go here, and you can see for the button submit how to enable disable buttons. In HTML you learned every button have a disabled property. Disabled must be true or false. When it should be true? When form is invalid. That means FRM register dot invalid. FRM register dot invalid will return true if form is invalid. That means disabled will be true if it is invalid. When invalid will return false. When all fields are valid. Then automatically disabled will be false. Then you see now here currently submit button not working. That good. User cannot submit until or unless he enters the button. He enters all correct. So we are entering the name. So we are entering the age. Still submit button not working. I am entering some 98765432110. 10-digit number still not valid. Why? Because as per the pattern it should start with +91. Now submit button working. Suppose age not entered, submit button will not work again. Right? Again you entered the age, then it is working fine. So name not entered, submit button will not work. Now you entered some name, 3 characters, still not working. Why? Because as per our validation, it must have 4, minimum 4 characters. Now submit is working. This is how we use this validation. Right? This is form state validation, verifying whether all fields are valid. Now the question here is, how it is verifying whether valid or invalid? Have you written anything new, additional things here? No. We just used HTML validation. HTML will teach you validation attributes. You use them, Angular will recognize. That's simple. And what are the validations that you have to learn in HTML? Required, min length, max length, patterns. Right? How to write the patterns, regular expression. Suppose they ask password must be 4 to 10 characters with at least one uppercase letter and number. How you will write? We will write a pattern for that. We will write a pattern for that. For example, suppose I am using here some another term. This is password and I am writing data definition. In your HTML you learned input type is equal to password, and I want this as name password, and I need ng model, and hash password is equal to what? Ng model. And important here is I want password required, okay, and I want password pattern. Pattern is nothing but you learned how to write pattern. So question mark equal dot star square brace a-z /w 4, 10. This indicates the password can be alphanumeric between 4 to 10 characters, but one uppercase letter is compulsory. That is the pattern. So this is not alien script, this is HTML. You are looking at me like I am explaining some alien script. This is HTML only. If you haven't learned this in HTML, it's very poor. I will not waste time here explaining all this HTML again. You have to learn this in HTML only. Validations, HTML attributes, how to write patterns. Without writing such kind of patterns, you can't call yourself as a web developer, because every form have patterns. You put a username, there will be pattern. You put passwords, there will be pattern. Pattern like password must have one uppercase, it must be broad to 15 characters. You have to learn that in HTML only. HTML have a pattern attribute that will tell you how to write the patterns, configure the patterns. Now as per the patterns, you have to do it. Now see now here, now password, all details I am entering. All details I am entering, everything looks okay. Okay, but password I am entering here. Password I am typing suppose some password, and you can see password minimum 4 characters are there and numbers also there, but still not satisfied. Why? Because as per the pattern, password must have at least one uppercase letter. Now it is valid. Now submit button is working. If I am not writing an uppercase letter, again it is invalid. If you are not matching the requirement anywhere and one uppercase letter, it is valid. Any uppercase letter, it is valid. That's how generally we write patterns, and 100 to 100% every developer is tested on patterns at beginner level. That means they will give a form, they will say that write validations with the form and submit this in your Java.NET in backend. You learn Java, you learn .NET as technologies, you have to design a form with validations. Mandatory. And that verifying the details and then submitting the details. Verifying the details and submitting the details of this. Right? This is usually. What is the specialty here? We don't need to write logic. Angular have already services, pristine, dirty, valid, invalid. Now the question is, okay, you used valid, invalid. How do I use pristine and all? Of course, we can use, suppose see, pristine and all means here, one more point is, suppose I kept a button, this button is save. This save button should not work until or unless some modification done. Save button should work only when some modification happened. Until or unless some modification done, then how do? We will put disabled. Disabled must be true based on, disabled must be true if it is pristine. That means FRM register dot what? Pristine. It will return true. Pristine true means not modified. If it is modified, then disabled will be false. Pristine will be false, disabled will be false. That means now see, save button is not working. You do some modification, means enter something, then save button works. How you know that modified or not? How you know that valid or not? For that these services are used. That means if the same thing any front-end developer have to do in general JavaScript and jQuery, lot of logic we have to write. Here simple, ready-made services, just attach them. But here still not satisfied. Why? Because the validation services you have seen, they are related to form. They are related to form. The validation services are related to form. That means now you see here, you see it is a submit button not working. Why not working? Submit button not working. Why not working? Form is invalid. What invalid? All are required. Who knows it? Who knows that? The person who designed knows it. Right? How user knows that all are required? How user knows min length is 4 required? How user knows mobile number is +91? According to his country, that might change. Right? How user knows this? So form state validation is good, but it is for all fields in the form. So it is not clear about where problem is. It says problem is there, but it will not be clear in where the problem is. For that, what we have to do is, that means form state validation. This is actually form state validation services. Form state validation services are used to verify all fields in the form. For all fields in the form as a single element. All fields in the form as single unit actually. That means it is used to verify all fields in the form as one unit. You can say better as single component in our terms, Angular terms. As a single component it will verify. But that is not good. We have to verify every field and report the problem. That is good. We have to verify every field. This example I will give you. This is template form.component.html. There is no TS logic. Everything is written in HTML only. In TS nothing. Right? Everything is designed in this. I will copy. Okay, let it be here. Okay. But we are not satisfied with this. It is not enough, because you can identify the problem in every field and report. You can identify the problem in every field and report. That means you can identify the problem in every field individually and report by using input state validation services. Input state validation services means you have input element now. This input element have a reference. What is the reference? Suppose it is having age. That is the reference. Now what you can do is you can access like this. You have the validation services. Here also pristine, here also dirty, here also valid, here also invalid. Here we have touched, extra and untouched. And we also have errors. These are related to every field in the form. For form we have pristine, dirty, valid, invalid and submitted. But for every field you have some more extra. For every field you have touched, untouched and errors. We have pristine and dirty, valid and invalid also. Actually we use like this now. Already we know that here we have age. Age dot value, what it will do? It will return whatever the value you entered in age. We have same age dot invalid. We have same age dot valid. We have same age dot pristine. Like this we can do. We can use age dot, suppose like touched. All these we can do. These are called input validation. We have seen form validation. Similarly, input validation. For example, see now. If name is required, if password is required, if age is required, mobile is required, we need to show that. Then what we will do is, below this text box, I will put a definition. This is the definition here we are defining. As of now, I will just put a simple option, span. In that, I will say name required. Now very important, when this, I will put another option, class text danger. I am using only for one field. You see name required. But once I start entering the name, it should disappear now. It's not going. Because it is not binded with validation. We will bind it now. Already we learned how to add and remove that span. How to add and remove this span. Simple. We have to use what? ng if. When to add this span? when the name field is invalid na? What is the name field name? Username dot what? Invalid. When it is invalid, it will add it. If it is invalid false, then it will remove it. That means now you see currently it is showing. And I am typing here. So I am typing something here. So and it is to be gone. I am removing that, then it says name required. But observe here we have two validations. One is name required. Okay, I entered some name. But still it is saying name required. Actually, there is another error there. That error is min length. Minimum how many characters? 4. If you use invalid, it will check invalid for all of them. That means min length invalid, true. Max length invalid, true. Pattern invalid, true. And required invalid, true. Not like that. I have to verify every error clearly. We have to verify every error clearly. How do we verify every error? Because for all errors you cannot give same message. For all errors we cannot give same message. Now user is confused. I am typing name, why it is saying required again? Because there is another problem. Then another problem, put another message. For all you cannot put the same message. So invalid is not good for all messages. Invalid is not good for all messages. What we have to do is, we have to write multiple validations. How do we write here? See, I am writing here, let's see, first 2 messages, name required, another message, name too short. I am writing name too short. So min 4 characters, like this I am writing. Now, as of now, both messages are displayed. But I need to classify the messages according to error. That means now see here. This div, that data definition should be added. That have 2 messages. It should be added. When it should be added? When name is invalid. That means I will put here ng if user name dot invalid, then this block will add. But in that block, which message went to display? This message should display if there is a required error. Then we have to write ng if username dot, we have errors. Errors is an object. It is an optional parameter. Optional parameter means you have to put a question mark. We learnt optional na? It is a question mark. Errors dot error name. We have to define the error name. Error name is what? The error name is required. That means if it is required, then what should happen? Actually, this they changed in the latest versions. I will tell you how we can manage this. That means this is required. Actually, we have to write like this. But this errors object, they changed in the latest version. So how to handle the error object, they changed it. This is the previous version. In the latest version, what they have done, all errors they have given as an array of string type. That means you have to configure this array of what type? String type. You have to just put the option like required. Like this you have to do. Earlier we used to write directly. In the latest 14 version, they changed this to array. Array of errors. Errors is an array. Array of what type? String. Which error it is? It is a required error. If it is required error, this will display. What about second one? ng if username dot what? Errors. Errors is an optional parameter. If what is the error? Min length. Min length error na? If min length error comes, then second message should come. That means you see here, initially it will display name required. And when I am typing here some name, name too short. Minimum 4 characters. I entered the name correctly, then it is fine. I removed a character, then it is name too short. I removed all the 3 characters, it says name required. It will change, that's good. This is more better. Why? Because you need form state, but form state is not enough. Form state is required for submit, save, like operations to verify all fields are correct or not. But you have to verify every field individual. Every field individually you have to verify, and you have to report the problem, and lot of logics are there here. I will tell you. Now another point is actually why you are showing this error message. I haven't started the form yet. Before starting the form itself, you will show all errors. Huh? That's not good. That means this interface is not good. Why? Because you are showing errors before you started typing something. I haven't started typing the form. Why you are showing me error messages? Right? That means showing default error messages is not a good idea anywhere. That means users are not satisfied. That means users usually have lot of ego. Right? Before entering itself, you say you are wrong. He will say, I don't want your website, close. Right? Because after all, you have lot of ego. Then the people who are using with more features and technology, they have more ego than you. You are a developer. That means you show your attitude to your team lead. Now team lead, how much attitude he have to show to you? And how much attitude that project manager have to show to the team lead? All this hierarchy affects on you. That means the project lead scolds the team lead scolds you. Right? The point here is nobody wants anything to be forcibly told. That means I am doing my work. Why you are telling me forcibly? Right? This is forcibly telling that there is error. I haven't started. Why you are showing me error? I will start, then show me error. This is not good interface. This is not pleasing. These are demanding. That means, remember in web development, even the foreign clients usually, they care even you miss a comma. They will care if you put a double bold letter. They will care if you write in capital letter. That means if you send a message in capital letter, hello, then he will say that why you are sending me capital letters. That means, do you know capital letters means you are strongly telling him. Why you are strongly telling him? You have to politely tell him. That means capital letters, bold, they are considered as strong. That is their expression. English is their expression language. For you, it is a learner language. English is not your native language, but that is their native language. Bold is their expression. If you boldly tell hello, that means you are forcing. He will say why you are forcing. Your clients are very particular about that because all are majority foreign clients. We work for projects, majority all foreign projects, overseas projects, and their people are very much concerned about your language. You have to be very polite even on messages. That means these kind of forms are not good. That means you should never show an error message until or unless he starts using it. Right? So that means red is very not good on screen. So then now tell me how to display the message. When to display the message? When he goes into the field and don't type, then show. When he tries to submit, then show. That is good. Then how we can write the logic? How do we know whether he entered into that field or not? We can write conditions actually. Condition is nothing but, here we can write, here you can see ng if username dot touched and it is invalid. It is touched and invalid. That means now you can see there is no message. I clicked inside it without typing, click outside. Now it will show. That's good. You cannot simply put an error message, a form with all error messages. That's not good idea. Right? So that means we have to display the message only when it is touched. You can do another. If form is submitted, then verify. But one advantage here, we are disabling submit now until or unless it is valid. That is the reason he will click inside without typing came out, then it will show message. That is what actually touched. So now they entered some value. This is okay. Minimum 4 characters, then fine. Less than 4, another message. Less than this, another message. Like that you can add for all of them. I hope you can write for others now. Let's write for password. Now we have a data definition. So here for password, what we have to do, ng if, what is it? If password dot what? Touched. If password is touched and double ampersand. And what? Password dot what? Invalid. If password touched and invalid, then 2 messages will come. One message is password required. Another message is password 4 to 15. How much I given? 4 to 10 characters. 4 to 10 characters with at least one uppercase letter. This is the message I am giving there. And when the first message should come, ng if, what is that? Password dot what? Errors. In that errors, what is the error type? Error type is what? Required. What is the second one? Second one is ng if. This is what? Password dot errors. What is the error type? Pattern error. We have to mention the attribute which it is for. That means now you have to. I click inside username, it shows the message. I click in password, it shows the message. Color, we will put here color class as text danger. That will be red color displayed for that. I click inside, it will show that. I am entering the username, now it is fine. I am entering password and you can see it says 4 to 10 characters with at least one uppercase. I entered minimum 4 characters, still not satisfied. I am entering one uppercase letter, then it is okay. You see, this is the password we entered here. This is how we have to write the validation for all. You entered age, you entered mobile. For this also you can display the messages, same. That means mobile is valid, mobile required error. Another one, this is age is required error. Mobile is required error, another mobile have pattern. You can put reasonable messages and you can display reasonable messages there. For age and mobile you can write now. The same thing I have given, right? That is validating and defining every field. Entire form validation is one and every field validation is one. Now, visually appearance your wish. You can give anything. For example, if suppose what we want is, for example, if this text box is invalid, it should be in red color. Entire text box should be in red color. Already I told you that ng class we learned now. We can apply the classes dynamically. That entire text box should be red color. Or you can do one thing. Suppose the entire form you can keep in red color. So if form is invalid, if form is valid, entire form should be in green color. You can put effects individual. Actually, you can do like this here. See, suppose I am going to CSS. In that I am giving here, so valid style. Valid style is nothing but background color. Background color I will give light green like this. Light green is the background color. So invalid style. Invalid style I will put background color as light red. We will put red only and I will change this pattern. So light red, that will be better. RGB. Light green also little bit lighter. That will be better. Okay, this is the values. Now how to apply? We need to go to form and to this container we need to apply. To this form we have to apply. That means for the form, suppose we have given some extra class as padding for something. Okay. Now in this form, we are applying ng class. We know we have to use an object style. What is it? One is invalid style. When to apply? When form is invalid. That means frm register. Frm register dot what? Invalid. If form is invalid, it will apply. What is the second style? Valid style. When to apply that valid style? frm register dot what? Valid. Valid. That's how we need to define. Now you can see your form will be in red because it is invalid. I entered all the details into this. Your messages also will come. You entered some details into it. Okay. You entered the password. So okay. And some A like this we entered. So, or David, because W I given, it will allow only underscore if I use /W. Age is entered, okay. Mobile is entered. Now it turns to green because all are valid. If anything is invalid, then it says red. If any one field is invalid, it will show that. Anything is invalid. Suppose 3 characters you return, then it is red. And 4 characters you define, then it is fine. It will display that. This is validation. Input level validation, form level validation. This actually, if I have to do with JavaScript, jQuery, lot of work, so much time, lot of methods, functions we have to write for validations. Now this is just readily available by using service. By using the services, we can manage that. This is the validation services here. This is one example. This is template form dot component dot what HTML. That is the example. Now, very important here, this is template approach. Template approach. There is another, we have reactive approach. Reactive approach means the problem in this template forms, extensibility is not possible. For example, suppose in this form, we are asking for some additional features. Additional feature is nothing but, suppose I given an option like, suppose user have to tell, is he from India? That means region. Is it Indian or not? Suppose we are designing some our Aadhaar cards or something like forms we are designing, and we select suppose some special state. That means some union territory. He is from union territory. If he is from union territory, then some additional details need to be entered. If he is not from union territory, then no need to enter those details. That means now my form should change. My form should change dynamically with some fields. That means for people from union territory, so some more extra fields will be asked, he need to fill up. If I am not belonging to any union territory, then some fields are removed. How a form will adjust like that? How a form can change like that? That means all fields are there. Some fields will be changing. How you can add fields? How you can remove fields? How you can change the fields according to situation? That is not possible in template forms. So when template forms are good, when your form is having a stable functionality everywhere. We don't need regular extensions. It will work in a same way, like a login form. Right? It will have same functions every time. Login form means username, password, some security verification and login. Nothing else. Right? If there are forms to be changed dynamically according to the situation, then we have to go with another concept. Then what we have to do, we have to learn how to design model-driven forms. We call as model-driven forms, or we call them as reactive forms. We call them reactive forms. In reactive forms, we can add elements, we can remove elements, we can design the forms. And very much important point is, you can make your UI lightweight. That means your UI will be very clean. UI means only UI. That means here in the UI, actually I want a text box. Then if I want a text box, HTML text box means input type is equal to text. This is enough. But you are messing up your text box with so many things, like, so you are giving a name, you are giving an ng model, you are giving a reference name. You are using that ng model as reference name. You are writing valid, you are writing required, you are writing max length. You are messing up with your entire interface. That means presentation, logic, dynamic, static, everything at one place. This is very heavy on application. Now what you can do is, you can keep your text box simple text box. And you can make all these work without writing them. That's good. That means your UI will be very clean, simple text box. And you can use validations, you can dynamically access, you can do everything without writing them there. That means UI will be lightweight. Then where we write all this? We write at the controller level. Controller level means in the logic level. In the logic level, we design a form and we will attach to the UI. But what is problem in that? It is good in extensions. It is good in clean separation. But writing a separate file obviously will increase number of requests. If number of requests are increased, then initial page load time will increase. So depending on situation, if you want a reusable extendable form, then design reactive. If you want a stable functional form without regular extensions, go with template. Now how to design reactive forms and how to handle validation in that we'll see tomorrow. Right, in tomorrow's session, we will see how we can see the validations and designing of forms, how we can create forms dynamically changing, how we can change the form dynamically according to situation. That we will see in the next session. Okay, tomorrow I'll continue.